Hi, and welcome to this video. I am currently on a writing retreat. If you watched my last video, you know that was something that I wanted to do this month, is to take some time away and basically reflect on the last 10 years of being a full-time artist and just writing down everything that I feel that I have learned, the challenges I have overcome, kind of how I got here. How did I get here? And the purpose of doing this is to try to create some more helpful and valuable resources for people who want to kind of follow the same path that I did and have the same kind of career that I do. As I mentioned in my last video, this has been a goal of mine for a very long time, but I just have not gotten around to doing it because I have struggled a lot with imposter syndrome, something that I think that a lot of artists go through in kind of every stage of their career. And I also struggled with this at the beginning with my artwork, and now when it comes to actually making, educational stiff about art, I'm just like filled with all of these feelings of doubt if I have the authority to be sharing my knowledge and teaching other people. I just feel like I have this little devil on my shoulder that's just whispering all these poisonous ideas in my mind, like, what gives you the right to be teaching people things when you barely know what you're doing half the time? So another goal of mine for this weekend is to just try to silence that little devil and to just move past all of this imposter syndrome and perfectionism and to just do this thing that I've been procrastinating for so long. And I'm just working on feeling confident in the things that I actually have accomplished so far and the evidence that I have helped people, through my YouTube channel and stuff, right? Well, anyways, I hope that wherever you are, you can make yourself a nice warm beverage and we can enjoy this next little while together. And I'm also looking forward to just getting some fresh mountain air in my lungs this week, so we can both look forward to some beautiful scenery, cozy vibes, and overcoming life's challenges. I'll see you soon. As I prepare to start writing, let's talk about imposter syndrome. If you've never heard this term before, it's basically the internal experience of doubting your abilities. It can affect anyone, and it's more common than you would think. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because I think we've all experienced it at some point in our life, and though it feels deeply personal, it's important and also reassuring to know that we're not alone in our experience. Imposter syndrome can manifest itself in different ways. For me, it's using perfectionism and procrastination as coping mechanisms for my fear of failure. I often put way more time and effort than necessary into any project I do because of the unattainable standards I set for myself. And then I end up feeling guilty for spending so much time on one thing when I could be working on something else that would be more productive and beneficial for my career. I just often find myself being really self-critical of everything I'm doing, and I think it comes from my desire for everything to be perfect. And because I want everything I create to be perfect, I also tend to procrastinate. Sometimes it's in the form of over-preparing for something instead of actually doing the thing, and sometimes it's just pushing projects more and more into the future because if I don't start them, I can't fail, right? And that's what I've been doing with this project. I've wanted to make an online course for years, but I've kept putting it off because I'm scared. I'm scared that it's not going to be good enough, and I'm scared that people are going to think that I'm a fraud. I get this feeling a lot that everybody thinks I know a lot more than I actually do. So when it comes to sharing my knowledge, it can be a bit anxiety-inducing. Because I also find that it's one thing for me to post things on YouTube for free, because if somebody isn't finding value in what I'm sharing, it's no big deal, they can just click away. But it's a much more scarier thing when you're creating something and then asking for money in return. It really cranks up the pressure, and I think that that's why I've been putting this off for so long. I just want to make sure that whatever knowledge I share will provide as much value as possible, and then people will be willing and happy to invest in it. But I also have to not let my perfectionism get in the way, or else I will never finish it. I also have the issue of comparing myself to the success of others, which is also a cause of imposter syndrome. I have the privilege of being surrounded by a lot of amazing artists at my studio. It's a very inspiring place to be, and I'm honestly so fortunate, but sometimes I find myself comparing my artistic output to those of my friends and feeling kind of shitty about it. I've got so many other projects going on that don't involve painting, and I find myself feeling less and less like an artist. And then for a project like this, which is one of my non-painting projects, I'm still comparing myself, but to all the other artists out there who have already put out 10 or 20 or 100 courses that are super successful, and I'm over here thinking, like, how the hell did they do that? Where did they get all their knowledge from, and is mine gonna be good enough to compete? So yeah, imposter syndrome sucks. But I am determined to put a stop to it this week, or at least to temporarily silence it so that I can make the most out of my writing retreat. And I read that one of the ways that I can do this is by reflecting on how far I've come, which actually lines up pretty well with my goals for this week, because that was kind of exactly what I was planning on doing. But speaking of reading, I wanted to share with you some of the art books that I brought along with me. Also, squeaky bed, I'm sorry about that. I brought these painting books so I can feel like a painter again, and this one I have been trying to get through for a long time. It's honestly taken me months and months of reading on and off, but I'm almost there. I have like 10 pages left. It is called Color and Light, a guide for the realist painter by James Gurney. And I thought maybe we could do like a little premature book review. There is a lot of information in this book, and James Gurney has just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to painting. He's a phenomenal painter, especially when you realize that the work that he's doing is basically like from his imagination, and he is able to render these images in such amazing detail. So this is a book that I would highly recommend for somebody who paints fantasy or who just doesn't want to paint with a reference photo. I did find this book to be very technical, and there's not anything wrong with that, but it did make my brain a little achy at times, and I think that that's probably why it took me so long to finish. I just found myself having to consult the glossary in the back because I would forget what terms meant, and I just found myself having to reread a bunch of stuff over and over to really let things sink in. And I don't know, sometimes I found that he was kind of using like unnecessarily complex language to explain things, which was kind of frustrating for me, but then again, maybe I'm just dumb. I do think I will be consulting this book again in the future, though, and what's nice is that it is divided neatly into chapters, so it's easy to just skip to the part that you may be having trouble with or need more information about. That's what I intend to do. And now I am very excited to start this book. Oh my god, it's so heavy. It is called Alla Prima Number 2, Everything I Know About Painting and More by Richard Schmidt. It is the expanded edition. This is the most expensive book I've ever purchased in my life. It was over 200 Canadian dollars, and mamma mia. I wanted it for a very long time, and so last year for my birthday, I gifted it to myself. And also it's a business expense, so like... But anyways, a little background information. I came across the work of Mark Bowages quite a while back and just fell in love with his landscape paintings. I think he's a phenomenal painter and would love to be able to paint like him. And then after doing a little bit of research, I found out that he was a student and very much inspired by ding 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 Richard Schmidt. So when I discovered that this book existed with the promise of teaching me how to paint like Mark Bowages and Richard Schmidt, I was like, add to cart, baby. Put that in the library. So I'm very, very excited. Ooh, to give this one a go. Honestly, it is not a good traveling book because it's so heavy and big. I should have honestly left it at home and just started reading it next week instead of this week, but anyway, I'm thinking it might be a nice way to just like clear my mind before bed a little bit and prevent me from doom scrolling during my writing retreat, because I want this to be a wholesome experience. Maybe I'll do a video in the future of like a more in-depth book review of the art books that I'm reading. I think that could be fun. Let me know in the comments if you wish to do that, or if you don't wish that I do that. Anyway, I'm gonna get a good night rest now and hopefully get some good writing done tomorrow. Well, here we are. It's already day 5 of my writing retreat, and to be honest, I have been feeling a bit disappointed with my progress so far. I feel like my intention coming into this trip was, we're gonna write an entire course in a week. It's gonna just flow out of me, and everything is gonna be beautiful and amazing. And it hasn't been. In the slightest, actually. I've just been very confused this whole time. My thoughts have been completely disorganized, and I've just been having a hard time. And I've come to the realization that it can be very difficult to get into a flow state, and it's something that I think you can't necessarily force. That being said, as of this morning, I am starting to feel like I'm actually taking strides, and I'm feeling a little bit more motivated. I feel like I have more direction now after kind of taking the last couple days to, I guess, clear my mind a little bit, and things do feel like they're flowing a lot more. So I'm certainly going to be riding that wave for as long as I can. I know I only have 2 days left of being here, and I can beat myself up for not making much progress these past 5 days, but at least now, on day 5, I have actually found something that I can work with. And I've found that even having a little bit of a breakthrough has done a lot for my confidence. Like, now that I kind of have like an outline more or less, writing has become so much easier, and I don't feel so doubtful of what I am writing down. So that's been great. Maybe sometimes it just takes a little win, just a tiny little win to propel you forward. So yeah, I'm going to try and propel myself as far as I can these next couple days. And in the meantime, it is really nice outside, so I think I'm going to go for a walk, make myself a nice lunch, and then get back to it. It may seem like everyone else has their shit together and knows exactly what they're doing, but more often than not, they're having the same doubts as you. Here on the internet, what you're seeing is mostly people's highlight reels, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not filming when my self-esteem is at an all-time low or when I'm feeling depressed or super bloated. I try to make my life look dreamy. The evidence is here in the scenery of this video. But we can't compare our behind-the-scenes doubts and failures to each other's highlight reels. It's just not realistic. We have to remind ourselves that everyone has struggles, and that going through them is what makes our achievements something to be proud of and not something to feel illegitimate about. It may feel like no matter what you accomplish, there's always someone ahead of you. But you can't let that diminish the work that you've put in that brought you to where you are today. Your effort and success is never an accident, it's earned. And this is something that I intend to remind myself of more often. Even though I didn't accomplish as much as I wanted to this week on my writing retreat, and even though there are people out there who are way more talented and successful than me, I'm still making progress, and taking baby steps is better than taking no steps at all.